Everyone, good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Today is January the 28th. Today is a Wednesday. We do have Fed speaking later today. Of course, we do have a bunch of earnings as well. So today's a big day. Overall, markets are actually pushing up nicely here. What's up, everyone? Am I back? Are we good? Seems like right off the morning, some issues, but should be back. I'm back. Awesome. Yeah, if there's any issues in regards to the pre-market prep, you guys can always refresh the stream and it should be good. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. A lot of things to kind of talk about with the markets gravitating towards that all-time highs level, what to expect moving forward. As for the Fed meeting later today, we aren't expecting any rate cuts, but we'll kind of talk about what to expect with the QQQ gravitating up and towards our all-time highs. And of course, this week, it's been a little bit more difficult, at least for the first couple of days, because a lot of these moves, as you can see, are happening in the overnight session. So we'll talk about what to expect. A lot of the semis are actually moving up nicely. As you can see, the SMH up about 2%, or sorry, almost 3% here. A lot of names moving nicely. Nvidia, MU gap up, Intel another gap up. We even have like TSM and SanDisk another gap up. So we will head on to the major indices. Before we do that, let me pull up the economic calendar. And I'll also mention, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Good morning, Cody, B Roots, ANL, Andreas, TW, NRP. Good morning, Robert, Deuce, I am Damien, Arnold. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. Let's head right into the economic calendar. As you can see for today, we do have FOMC. So we've been waiting for this for a while now. FOMC statement, that is going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we do have Jerome Powell speaking. That's going to be at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So with the markets gapping up here, we're already at our all-time highs. Most likely, we're not going to have too many crazy big moves pre-FOMC just because now QQQ is hitting our all-time highs. So we're going to be a little bit more patient today and most likely wait for Jerome Powell to speak later into the day, and of course that FOMC statement. As for some other red folder news that we have, tomorrow we have unemployment at 8:30, and then we also have core PPI on Friday at 8:30 as well. As for the earnings, let me pull up the earnings calendar today. Let me pull this up. Just give me a second. So for today, as you can see, we have a bunch of earnings in the overall markets. We have Microsoft. That's going to be today after close. Meta, today after close here as well. Tesla is also today after close. So these are the big ones coming into today. That is going to be today after the market closes. And then, of course, tomorrow, there's a bunch of big ones as well. We have Apple, and then we also have SNDK, which has been a tech name that has been a name that's been leading the market towards the upside. Another gap up pre-earnings. These names have been a little bit trickier to trade this week in specific, just because the IV is a little bit higher, but we'll talk about these names, specifically Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla today, and what can we expect. So with that being said, now let's head on to the major indices. So first things first, let's start off here on the ES. So the ES, as you can see, building up nice higher lows, and now we're finally hitting that all-time highs level. You can see on the higher time frames, we rejected this higher time frame level earlier into the month, and we end up having this nice push towards the downside. Now for the overall markets, let's go on to the ES. As you can see, we end up hitting our all-time highs key level here in the pre-market on the ES futures. So now we're having a little bit of a pullback. The key levels that we have marked out is, of course, going to be that all-time highs level. And then I also have this level here as well. I'm actually just going to move this over, and we can drag this over, which is that all-time highs level 7036. And then, of course, the next key level, we can just mark out that previous day highs, which is going to be that 7017. So coming into today here for the ES, what we like to see is the reaction that we have off our previous day highs. If we do want to see some continuation in the overall markets, the bounce off our previous day highs for this continued push back up and towards our pre-market highs and really this all-time highs key level 7037. So this is going to be the really main thing coming into market open. As I mentioned, it might be a little bit trickier to trade today just because we do have FOMC later into today at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and of course we have Jerome Powell speaking. That's going to be at 2:30. So this is what we have for the ES. Shorts will be in play underneath our previous day highs for a potential mean reversion back towards the downside. So keep an eye out on your previous day highs coming into today here for the ES. If you go onto the SPY chart, the exact level here is going to be that previous day high. So let's go into the daily time frame. As you can see, we recently hit our all-time highs yesterday. See these higher lows being built up nicely, gravitated up and towards our all-time highs. So now we're above our all-time highs here in the pre-market. What we like to see moving forward is the reaction that we have, as you can see, off our all-time highs. So our 696, you can see multiple touches, touch yesterday. If you want to see some upside, maintain above this 696. Yeah, sorry, let me adjust my screen here as well. If we do want to see some upside, maintain above your 696. If we break back underneath, we can see a little bit of a pullback here in the market. So if you go back onto the lower time frames, the exact level we're going to have marked out 696 here on the SPY chart. If we can see buyers step in off our previous day highs, we can be looking for longs off our 696, something similar to yesterday. We end up getting some nice buyers off that previous day highs for this nice continuation back towards the upside. So fairly similar game plan. If we see buyers step in, we can be looking for a move back up and towards our pre-market highs, which in this case is our 698. So this is going to be the key level here. Keep an eye out on that on the SPY. Shorts are in play. I only like shorts underneath our 696 and for the markets to stay heavy underneath this level. So our previous day highs is going to be key coming into market open here on the SPY. Now let's go on to the QQQ chart. As you can see for the QQQ and NQ, the Qs end up gravitating up and towards my key level, which was that all-time highs that I talked about. So as you can see here for the QQQ, we're finally starting to break outside of this consolidation. So we've been ranging for the past really month or two on the NQ. Now that we're actually breaking outside of this range, what I like to see is the really markets start gravitating back up and towards key levels. So number one, for the QQQ, the main key level that we had, if we can break above our 628 with a candle close, we mentioned the next level is going to be that all-time highs. Now we're actually already back at our all-time highs in the pre-market. So moving forward, we'll keep an eye on the reaction that we have off our all-time highs. We'll either look for a potential pullback for a continuation higher, or now it's going to be the break above our all-time highs for that continued push here on the QQQ. But if we go back onto the NQ, the key levels that we're going to have marked out coming into today, number one, what we're going to have marked out is going to be the high that we created. This was a key level from yesterday. Now we can also mark out our previous day highs. So our previous day highs is fairly far away. All right, our previous day highs is all the way back down in towards that 26,100. You can see really solid push here in the overnight session, of course, with a bunch of semiconductors, Nvidia popping here. So really solid push here on the NQ. Now coming into market open, as I mentioned, the key level here is going to be that previous day highs. So it is very far away. So a couple scenarios that we could be looking for on the QQQ, we can mark out that pre-market high, and we could also mark out a pre-market level here as well. So there's a couple key scenarios. Number one, right, longs right off the bat above your pre-market high for continuation. Going to be a little bit more difficult after this pretty big gap up here in the overnight session. Another possible scenario, bounce off this key level from the pre-market for this continuation higher, or of course it would be the bounce play off our previous day highs 26,100. So this is a key level here for the NQ coming to market open. As for shorts, be very cautious. The only short that you could be looking for on the NQ is that rejection off your all-time highs here on the QQQ for potential mean reversion. So for the NQ, there is one potential short opportunity, which is going to be the break underneath this key level from the pre-market for a push down in towards our previous day highs. We'll kind of talk about this a little bit more here on the QQQ since we did hit our all-time high. So let's actually just remove a couple key levels here. So for the QQQ, as you can see, we are net long coming into this week, just with the overall markets. Higher lows are still being built. A lot of strong price action really in the first couple of days, pushing this back towards the upside. Our main objective here is that all-time highs. So as you can see right here, once we break above the 628, we've been talking about this for a while. Break above the 628, we can see our all-time highs, and it comes fairly quick. So for the QQQ, we're back at our all-time highs here now. So this is the exact level that we can have marked out. So now we go back onto the lower time frames. As you can see, the key levels that we have marked out is that high that we created here. This was on Monday, right? Nice previous day high retest. This was super solid entry if you could have got that previous day high retest here on the QQQ. And now we're at our all-time highs, which is that 636. So coming into today, the key level here is going to be that 636, which is our previous all-time highs. And we can also mark out our pre-market highs plus our previous day highs. So for the Qs coming into today, right, maintain a long stance in the overall market if we maintain above the 636, or of course it's going to be above our pre-market highs for continuation. If we reject off our all-time highs, there is a possibility for a reversal here in the markets. That is a potential scenario for the QQQ. I think this would only happen after FOMC, but this is a very possible scenario. So we'll keep an eye out on the overall markets. As I mentioned, I'm expecting price action to be a little bit slower now since we hit our main objective, which is that all-time highs. I don't expect too much to happen pre-FOMC now. So we'll most likely just be patient, wait for that 2 p.m. to hit. And of course, Jerome Powell to speak at 2:30. And then of course, right, we'll keep an eye out on this 636 here. So we'll keep an eye out on this here for the QQQ coming to today. As I mentioned, these are a few scenarios. It is going to be a little bit of a trickier session on the QQQ, but there's a lot of other tech names that have super solid setups. So we'll kind of talk about the tech here. We'll first go on the SMH, since this one really has been leading the market back towards the upside. You can see SMH daily chart. We talked about every single dip just being bought up, right, in a clear trend here in the markets. Now for the SMH, we just like to see more continuation higher. So key levels that we have for the SMH coming into market open, we can just mark out that previous day highs, which as you can see is fairly far away. So the previous day highs is being marked out, which is at 409. Now we're going to have to mark out our pre-market levels, which is just going to be that pre-market high and that pre-market low. So coming into today here, if we do want to see semiconductors continuation, we just like to see it above our pre-market highs, or now it's going to be that pre-market low hold for that continuation back towards the upside. So really for SMH, if you want to maintain a bullish stance here in the overall markets, let's keep an eye out on your 418 hold for this continuation back towards the highs. So number one, we understand that the semiconductors are fairly bullish. Nvidia had some news, and then of course MU, Intel, even SNDK gapped up here. So we'll talk about these semiconductors in a second. If you guys do have now any charts or any tickers, you guys can now drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below as well. Okay, let's first talk about Tesla. So Tesla here coming into market open. So we actually have earnings tonight. Not really too much to talk about pre-earnings. We'll touch up a little bit more on this name after earnings. So we'll talk about this a little bit more. Potentially there can be an after earnings play here on Tesla. But at least for today, not really doing too much, really pushing down, whereas the overall market is pushing higher. So for Tesla, we're just going to be a little bit more patient. We haven't really traded Tesla that much in the past month, just because it has been consolidating. So for at least moving forward for Tesla, I would just be cautious. I would most likely just wait until tomorrow after earnings if you are going to play this name. But key levels, at least, that we do have previous day lows, and we also have that previous day highs marked out. We also have your Monday's lows marked out here as well. 434. So for Tesla, as I mentioned, yeah, it does have earnings later tonight. So if you want to trade this, right, today is not the day to do so unless you're planning to trade for an earnings play. I would just be very cautious. Since the IV is going to be fairly high today. So do not trade Tesla today. We'll just wait for tomorrow, and then we'll develop our game plan after earnings. As for Nvidia, this one is basing nicely, and now we're breaking towards the upside. We're also gapping up here as well above our key level of resistance. So as you can see here, if we go into the hourly chart, we kind of talked about this coming to this week. The key level here is that 186. So that 186 level is being defended, and now we're having this nice push towards the upside. Now for Nvidia, you can see we're just gravitating up and towards really the top of the range that we have marked out, which is that 192, that previous consolidation. So you can see multiple touches here. Now we're bouncing off the bottom of the range, and now we're just gravitating back up and towards the top of the range, which is this 192.50 level. So if we do want to see some more upside here on Nvidia, we need to get above this. If we reject, of course, we can see that mean reversion back towards the downside. So if you go into Nvidia lower time frames, coming into market open, what we're going to keep an eye out on today here is going to be that 192.50. If you do want to see continuation, it's going to be above your 192.50 pre-market high for continuation towards the upside. Another possible scenario here is consolidation right underneath our 192.50, and we could be looking for the reclaim or some sort of break and retest later into the session for this pushback towards the highs here as well. And then finally, a third possible scenario is going to be that bounce play off our previous day highs, 190, for this continuation back towards the upside. So a couple scenarios that we have laid out here on Nvidia coming into market open. This one, with this gap up here, we had some news here. CRWV is the one that's pushing up nicely as well with a bullish catalyst. And then for Nvidia, this one has been lagging behind. Semiconductors are at all-time highs. MU, another gap up. A lot of these other semis are moving up nicer. So Nvidia has been beaten down quite a bit. So now let's see if we can break back above that 192 for this potential move back towards the high. So this is what we have for Nvidia coming into market open. These are the long scenarios. There's only one possible short scenario, which would be in a very aggressive short rejection right off the bat. If there's weak price action, you could be looking for this trade back down in towards that previous day highs. So keep an eye on Nvidia coming into market open. At least that's going to be one of my main watches moving forward here with the semiconductors continuing higher. Let's take a look at AMD here. So AMD, this is technically your first pullback. So as you can see, higher time frames, we hit our all-time highs last week, which was our main objective. Now we're forming some sort of cup and handle here on the daily time frame. What we like to see is really the hold and build up a higher low here on the daily chart for eventually this push back up and towards our all-time highs. So this is what we have for AMD. If we go back onto the lower time frames, the key levels that we have marked out is going to be that 252. So that's going to be the key level here on AMD. What we like to see is really just the maintain above 252 for this continuation back towards the highs. We're going to mark out other key levels here as well on the lower time frame, so we can actually adjust this. So for AMD, what I'm going to have marked out is going to be that previous day highs, 256. And I'm actually just going to adjust this down in towards the previous day lows, which also is in combination with that Monday's low here as well. So these are the key levels that I have on AMD. It's going to be that previous day highs, touch here from last week, and then a touch as well. Now what I like to see is really maintain above your previous day highs if you want to see any sort of continuation back towards the upside. So for AMD, keep an eye out on your previous day highs coming to market open. There's really two scenarios that you like to see for longs. Bounce off of your previous day highs right off the bat for continuation. Another possible scenario is going to be longs above your pre-market high for a push back up and towards your 256. Shorts are in play here on AMD underneath your previous day highs for a push back down in towards our previous day close. That is a possible scenario, but it's going to have to show quite a bit of weakness underneath that previous day highs if you're going to be looking for this one. So semis, as you can see, a lot of these ones are shaping up fairly nicely. Nvidia looks good, AMD looks good, and then there's a bunch of other semis we'll take a look at, like MU and TSM here in a second. Before we do that, let's head on to Apple. So Apple hit one of our main objectives yesterday, which is just our higher time frame consolidation point earlier. And you can see a little bit of rejection right off exactly where we wanted to. That was our main target. So Apple was one of our main watches yesterday for a push up in towards this key level, which was at 262. You can see if you traded Apple yesterday, the underlying moved fairly nicely, but overall options, very difficult. Apple's tends to be a slower mover. Plus, of course, it has earnings on Thursday. So the IV is quite elevated. Now it's just consolidating. So it's back inside of this range. We're just going to be a little bit more patient and wait for earnings, which is going to now be on Thursday. So not too much to talk about Apple. We'll touch up on this a little bit more on Friday morning. And then for Google, this one looks solid here on the higher time frames as well. Every dip so far being bought up on the daily chart. What I'd just like to see here for Google is now this push back up and towards our all-time highs. So if we go back onto the 15-minute time frame, the key levels that I have marked out is going to be that high that we created here on Monday. And of course, we're going to have our previous day highs marked out here as well. So a couple scenarios that we have on Google, either we're going to be looking for the bounce play off that 336, or now it's going to be, of course, above your previous day highs for that continued push back up and towards our all-time highs, which in this case is that 341. As for Meta, this one has earnings coming up, so just be a little bit more cautious. But this one looks good here on the daily chart. We're just kind of consolidating here. But now if we can break outside of this consolidation, we can see this nice push back up and towards our 740. So this is what we have on Meta coming into market open. Currently, we are at a key level of resistance, so we're going to need to break above it. If we reject, we're just going to come right back towards the downside. As I mentioned, earnings tonight, so be a little bit more cautious if you're trading any of these tickers. As for Amazon, let's go back onto this one. This one's showing a very nice, really breaking above his 240 with a lot of strength. So Amazon, we talked about yesterday, kind of this flat top break. If we can break above, we can see a push up and towards that 242. This one now showing a lot of strength here. Next key level here on the higher time frame, 248 and 250. So for Amazon, super solid push towards the upside. Now the key level that you're going to have marked out is, of course, going to be that previous day highs, 245. So if you want to see Amazon potential pullback down in towards your 245 for this continuation higher. Another possible scenario, break above your pre-market high for this continuation back up and towards that 247. So this is what we have on this is what we have on Amazon coming into market open. And then for Microsoft, this one, key level, super nice V-shaped recovery. This one does have earnings as well, but nice V-shaped recovery so far. We're kind of back inside this consolidation. We like to see this push up and towards that 292 here on Microsoft. So this is what we have. Key levels that we're going to have marked out coming into today is going to be that previous day highs, which in this case is going to be that 482. If we do want to see continuation above your 482 for this continued push, and then for Netflix, kind of just consolidating here. So for the big tech names, the best ones, of course, are the semiconductors. They look good here with the SMH really leading the market towards the upside. As for the QQQ, as I mentioned, we are at our all-time high, so we just want to be a little bit cautious. As you can see, our 636, we haven't created a new high since all the way back from November of last year. So for the QQQ, nice kind of push towards the upside. Let's see if we can start trending on a bunch of these tech names now, with the QQQ being at our all-time highs key level. So my favorite is really just the semiconductors. The rest of the names, you have to be a little bit more cautious, just because something like Tesla, we have earnings tonight, Apple earnings Thursday, Google, we can be looking for a potential continuation up and towards that 341, but Meta has earnings, Amazon has earnings. It's Meta and Microsoft are the ones that have earnings. Amazon, we can keep an eye on above our previous day highs. But a lot of these big, really these Mag 7 names are either reporting, and then really the only ones we can focus on is primarily the semiconductors, at least today. and we're going to have to wait for at least the earnings to happen before we look on any other ticker. So now let's head on to a few other tickers here. If you guys do have any charts or any tickers you'd like me to go over, you guys can now drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, of course, that is in the description below here as well. Yeah, so if you're trading inside of a range, so we broke outside the range. So for something like Apple, this is our previous range. What we had here is the previous range. We broke outside the range. So when we trade back inside the range, we're most likely going to gravitate towards the high. So we are technically trading inside the range, but targeting the higher the range. This is more of something called AMD, accumulation, manipulation, and then you have the distribution. So if you're trading inside of a general range, right, this is something you don't want to trade. If we break outside the range, this is more of a reclaim, and then we want to see that push back higher. We'll kind of touch up on that potentially on another video or maybe my second channel. Now let's go on to MU. So let's go into MU here. Let's go into the daily chart. As you can see, higher time frames, very much bullish, right? Every single dip being bought up here on MU, every down close candle being bought up. Key level here on MU is our all-time highs, right? Sorry, our previous day highs. We had our previous all-time highs, and you can see nice move. Right, yesterday on MU, the key level that we have marked out was at 410, so you can see a little bit of rejection, broke above it later into the session, and then we actually dropped coming into close, and now we're having this super solid gap up here. So for MU, the key levels that I have marked out is going to be number one, that previous day highs, which is fairly far away, right? 416, very far away here on MU. Now I'm going to have to mark out our pre-market levels. I'm just going to mark out that pre-market low, and then I'm also going to mark out that pre-market high, which is going to be that 433. So these are the key levels that I have coming into today here for MU. It's going to be that 426 along with that 432. If we do want to see some upside here on MU, we like to see that pre-market low reclaim for that pushback towards the upside. Another possible scenario, now it's going to be above our pre-market high for continuation. Really, these are the two scenarios for upside, at least right off the bat. And of course, if you do want to see some downside, it's going to have to be underneath your pre-market lows, hold underneath this pre-market lows for a push down in towards that previous day highs, 416. So this is what I have for MU today. Of course, we're going to be leaning more towards the upside just because we're at all-time highs. We're just going to look for major dips on MU for continuation. So this is what we have for MU coming into market open. Keep an eye out on that pre-market low. As for TSM, this one looks good here as well. We touched up on this a couple times. Key levels for TSM is really this previous consolidation. Nice kind of retest yesterday off this level for a pushback towards the upside. And of course, another gap up here as well. So for the key levels coming to market open, we're just going to mark out exact same thing, right? Our pre-market levels, pre-market low, along with our pre-market highs. For TSM, exact same game plan, pre-market low bounce for continuation, or now it's going to be above your pre-market high for push back up and towards our all-time highs. Only way you're interested in shorts, underneath that 344 for a push down and towards that 341. Intel, finding a little bit of buyers here off the bottom after we had a pretty big drop on earnings. The key levels moving forward is going to be this earnings day low after earnings, which is that 48 along with our 45. If you do want to see some upside on Intel, bounce off our 45 for a push higher, or of course now it's going to be above our pre-market highs or above this 48 for continuation. Intel, going to be a little bit of a harder name. I'll just be a little bit more cautious and wait for the 48 break. Currently, we are kind of back inside this mini range that we have established here. So be a little bit more cautious on Intel. And then for SNDK. So SNDK, another solid gap up here in the markets. We're actually gapping above our key level of resistance. You can see multiple touches, previous day highs here as well. SNDK, as long as you can maintain above 500, most likely you want to be very cautious. It does have earnings on Thursday, so you don't really want to touch this one. You just want to wait for after earnings. But the key levels that you're going to have marked out, this pre-market high, which also lines up with our all-time highs, of course, in the after hours. But key levels, as I mentioned, 516 along with our 500 key cycle level. So this is what we have for Some of the semis today, so let's keep an eye out on MU. We'll also keep an eye out on TSM coming into market open, just because the overall semiconductors have been pushing up very nicely. And of course, Nvidia and AMD. So a lot of the semiconductors are on watch today, at least right off the bat. If none of the semis set up, then we're just going to be more cautious and we're going to wait for, of course, FOMC, which is at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Jerome Powell is going to be speaking at 2:30 as well. And then, of course, we have big tech reporting tonight, which is after close. Okay, I see a couple more tickers, went over MU. Let's go over some of these commodities here. Let's go over gold and silver. Just continue to push towards the upside. So absolutely crazy move here on gold and silver, as I mentioned, right? Don't try and time a top. It's very difficult to time a top. Just look for major dips to go along towards the upside. If you're looking to day trade this, key levels that we have marked out, right? Every single dip has just been bought up so far. We actually broke above this flat top yesterday. Nice continuation towards the upside and really just another strong trend higher. Every single dip, yeah, just being bought up. Key levels, you're just going to mark out your down close candles. You can see on the hourly chart, we don't even have any down close candles besides these ones. We're going to have to go all the way back down onto that 15-minute time frame to really mark out down close candles here on gold. Now the key level, right? This is your key pullback long. As long as you can maintain this higher low, right? Next level back up and towards our all-time highs. So at least moving forward, right, on gold, really big extension on the daily chart. We are very much overextended as I talked about, but don't try and time a top on this ticker. Similar thing here on silver, right? It's very hard to time a top. The next key level is going to be that all-time highs. So for silver, really the key levels that I have marked out was this key high. Now we're getting back above it. You can see multiple touches around this general area. Right now we're getting back above this level. So for silver, the next main objective, back up and towards our all-time highs. What we like to see higher lows being built and that push back up in towards that all-time highs, which is that basically our 118,000 here on silver. So this is what we have on silver coming into today. Other key levels that we can have marked out on this ticker, you can just mark out this key area, or you can see touch here, touch here. Now, if we can flip back above, I'd like to see this level hold for this push back up and towards this high, and of course, our 118. So that's what we have on silver. As I mentioned, moving forward, right, gold and silver, don't try and time a top. Very, very difficult. Just wait and just kind of react to price and don't try and predict. As for some other tickers that we have here, let's go over the IWM. IWM here still relatively holding up compared to the overall markets. What I like to see, at least in specific for the IWM, is this period of consolidation. So as you can see right here, we have our 267 along with our 263. Break above our 263 for a push back up and towards our 269. Another possible scenario, right, we kind of had that marked out yesterday was the bounce play off our 263. So this is what we have coming into today here for IWM. CRWV, let's go over this one. Daily time frame shaping up nicely. Some bullish news catalysts here as well, kind of pushing this back towards the upside. So for CRWV, as you can see, consolidated for quite a bit, broke outside of this consolidation, retest now continuing back towards the highs. So for CRWV, we're going to have to look a little bit left. But this one, nice kind of break and retest outside of that consolidation period. Now the key levels we're going to have marked out is going to be that previous day highs. You can also mark out now it's going to be your high that we created here on Monday, which is going to be that 107. So for CRWV moving forward, we'd like to see now just maintain above our 111 for this continued push. Of course, another possible scenario above our pre-market highs for this continuation towards the upside. CRWV does have a decent amount of room back towards the upside. Key levels that we're going to have marked out on this daily chart, we're going to have our 116, and then really this daily gap all the way back up and towards that 123 here on the higher time frames. So that's what we have here. Palantir, yeah, Palantir kind of staying heavy. A couple names staying heavy here, like Hood, SoFi, a couple of these high beta names. Staying a little bit heavy compared to some of the semiconductors. As for Palantir, the key levels that we have marked out is, let's just mark this out, is going to be that previous day lows here now, which is that 165. So we can just have this marked out, at least moving forward on Palantir. If we maintain underneath this 165, then we could be looking for continuation down in towards that 161. So this is what I have coming into market open. Let's kind of go over the game plan today with the QQQ, of course, already being at our all-time highs. Okay. So with the QQQ already at our all-time highs, we have to be a little bit more cautious today with FOMC here as well. So this is our key level, 636. We're at our all-time highs on the QQQ. So for long scenarios, it's going to be a little bit more difficult since we already had a nice push and now we already hit our all-time highs main objective. Longs would have to be, right, we number one have to wait for the market to consolidate and then wait for the reclaim back above our previous all-time highs for this continued push back towards the upside. Another possible scenario, if it does show a lot of strength right off the bat, we can be looking for the pre-market high break and retest, which might be a little bit more tricky. And then, of course, the shorts are in play underneath our previous all-time highs if there's a big rejection for a push down and towards that previous day highs. All right, so these are the scenarios that I have laid out on the QQQ. I'm going to be very, very selective right off the bat within the first 30 minutes. If nothing happens within the first 30 minutes of market open, then I'm just going to not take any trades. Most likely, I'm probably going to be hands off until 2 p.m. regardless, just because we have FOMC. Whenever you trade pre-FOMC, very, very difficult, and majority of the times, if you trade options in specific, you're just going to get chopped around just because the implied volatility is going to be a little bit higher with FOMC later into the day. If you trade futures, you're fine because you don't have to worry about the Greeks. But if you trade options, it's best to wait for, of course, 2 p.m. and then Jerome Powell to speak. So that's what we have on the QQQ. As for my main watches today, I'm going to keep an eye out on Nvidia. Potential break above our 192. Nvidia, we can be looking to trade since this one doesn't have earnings. The IV is not as high. The key levels that we have is going to be that 192, break above our 192, continuation, reject. We can see a push down in towards that 190. So that's what we have on Nvidia coming into market open. Let's keep an eye on that 192.50 break above, retest, continuation. AMD, we'll also keep an eye on this one here as well, which is just going to be that previous day high break and retest. If it just rejects, then we're going to be a little bit more patient coming into market open. Apple, right, hands off. Tesla, hands off. Google, we can keep an eye on Google above our 335. Meta, hands off just because we have earnings tonight. Key level is going to be that previous day highs. Amazon, something we can actually be keeping an eye out for. It's going to be above your previous day highs 245 for continuation towards the upside. So coming into market open, and then of course Microsoft hands off with earnings as well. So my main watches are just going to be the semiconductors, Nvidia, AMD. And then I'm going to keep an eye out on MU. Seems like it's dropping a little bit here in the pre-market, but we can still keep an eye out on this one. And then we'll also keep an eye out, on TSM and potentially Intel here as well. So MU, right, as always, right, TSM, and then now, right, we can keep an eye out on Nvidia and AMD coming into today just because these ones don't have earnings as of yet. So the IV isn't going to be as high compared to everything else in the markets. And of course, SMH is already at all-time highs, kind of leading the market back towards the upside. So as I mentioned, be a little bit more cautious today. If you're going to look for any trades, right, either number one, trade futures before FOMC and wait for the IV to cool down, or you're going to trade some of the semiconductors. But besides that, be very cautious here pre-FOMC. And then, of course, we do have a bunch of earnings tonight. So that's going to be key in the overall market. So we'll touch up on this a little bit tomorrow. So the pre-market prep is going to be very important tomorrow with after earnings digestion and also the Fed meeting digestion as well. So that's going to be it for me today. Hopefully you guys did enjoy that. If you did, appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined, of course, the free daily watch list that is in the description below. And I'll see you guys all tomorrow. All right, take care, everyone. Peace.